It's the worst of the CBC for February 10th, 2020, the show where I watch the CBC so you don't have to. And it's getting to be a bit grating mentally. I'm starting to feel it. Especially in the last couple of weeks, the news cycle has been the same. It's like there is no new news. The whole Wet'suwet'en nonsense, I mean, at least they're mentioning the fact that the chiefs that are elected on the Wet'suwet'en land have approved the pipeline. Well, they make this nonsense about some hereditary chiefs. And I love how they never show the protesters because then they just be showing a bunch of white people. But this is really a great example outside of the normal stuff. It's really a great example of how the news media, the mainstream media can manufacture a news cycle, right? And how that could have negative effects on the country. And it kind of goes with the theme of today, which is the attack on the on Canada's energy sector, while enabling every other energy sector to grow. So because they focus so much on this Wet'suwet'en thing and refuse to tell the truth, and refuse to say, hey, all this, or giving it way more play than it should, you know, basically the lawlessness of it, they now have people, like a bunch of white people up in Quebec, blocking roadways and trains and Via Rail and passenger trains because they're idiots. So there's that. Now, the worst covered story of the day, I will say they did cut to an interview with Bill Morneau, who were answering questions on the Teck Frontier project, which they're not covering outside of that, but they did cut to him answering questions, and it does look like he is laying the groundwork to kill the project. I mean, everything's already been approved, but he's sort of making up that there needs to be new approvals, and we're going to add more consultations in. Basically, they're going to keep talking and talking and talking to people until someone says, you know, as a queer, indigenous, black, trans Muslim, I think this Teck Frontier project, you know, will, you know, violate my hijab, my, you know, spiritual, two-spirited hijab. And then they say, well, we can't do it because this one Human Rights Commission, who is probably a friend of some sort of Liberal cabinet minister, is going to say that. So his answers and the questions were so banal and so boring that I couldn't even remember them. I mean, again, it's really mentally grating to watch this. But he was talking about consultation and TMX not going forward. It does really sound that he's speaking mumbo jumbo. He's not really saying anything of value, but it does kind of sound, I'm getting the impression, that they're laying the groundwork to kill the project, which would hurt Alberta. Now, the biggest omission of the day is they did not cover the fact that a study came out that farm costs and because of the carbon tax have gone up 12%. And this is ultimately debunked everything that the Trudeau government has said about the carbon tax and validated everything I've said from the beginning. So kids, gather around for Economics 101. And when I say kids, I mean Liberal cabinet ministers. So children, cabinet ministers in the Liberal government, this is how economics works. Okay. When we talk about a carbon tax, one, carbon's like the most natural occurring element in chemistry because it has 4 valence electrons, so it bonds to everything. So almost everything is carbon. We're carbon-based life forms, right? I'm emitting CO2 right now, so it's a horrible metric to begin with. But if we just say, you know, carbon, it's a fuel tax. We're putting tax on oil and natural gas and these energies. Okay, great. And you're going to rebate us. Remember, everyone's going to make money off the carbon tax. Now, large polluters in Saudi Arabia are immune, but put that aside. Everyone's going to make money. I said, if you believe this, you're an idiot, because they're going to rebate you on the assumed fuel costs you personally have. But that's not how the economy works. It's all tied in together. So yes, you will be rebated for hypothetically how much gas you use during the year in your car, right? So if you have 2 cars and you're a family of 5 and you're middle class and your kids got soccer practice and then hockey, they've done some tabulation. Okay, you get $350 a year, and we estimate the carbon tax only costs you $325. So you've made $25. Woohoo! This is not how any of this works, because you forget that the carbon tax will increase prices of anyone who does A, eats food, or B, buys products that have been moved from point A to point B, because every product is made it somewhere and shipped somewhere else at some point. Shipping it requires energy. Energy requires carbon products, okay? So everything that is made and shipped, the cost of shipping and moving and whatever goes up. But it's not only that. All our food costs, as we've seen now, are going to go up, because in order to, you know, dry grain, farm the fields, all of this is sort of done with fossil fuels. All our modern agriculture is done with fossil fuels, drying grain, picking them on time. Now, if you want to find a greener way to do mass production farming, the way we've done this before is human chattel slavery. So if you're saying we need more slavery to fight climate change, I'll listen to that argument. I think slavery is a moral abomination, but I would rather you just be honest, and instead of saying, well, we need green solutions, just be honest and say our green solution is slavery. So we should have the honest conversation. Should we make people slaves again? Or should we just realize that fossil fuels aren't evil, right? Fossil fuels help people? Slavery. Fossil fuels? Slavery. Fossil fuels. Okay, that should be the conversation we're having, because as you've seen, okay, farmers need to use tractors, then they need to dry all the grain, then they need to produce it. All of that requires fossil fuels. And when the price of fossil fuels goes up, that means price of food goes up. When price of food goes up, that means everyone who eats food has to pay more money. And that's not calculated in the carbon tax. All your food prices go up. Right now, cost of living goes up, right? And the cost of transportation goes up. Now, everything goes up in terms of price. And this is going to kill the economy. And we have the information out there now, but the CBC is ignoring it. The Liberals are ignoring it. And it is because ignoring it because it is validated everything Doug Ford, Jason Kenney, Scott Moe, everyone who's watched this show and me have said about the carbon tax from day one. It's a stupid tax and no one's going to make money off it. It's going to kill the economy. So what does the CBC get today? I'm not even going to rate it on the Rosemary Barton scale because it's unwatchable. Unwatchable. It gets an unwatchable on a scale of 10 Rosemary Bartons for bias. Just unwatchable. Just 10 asleep Rosemary Bartons out of 10 Rosemary Bartons. That's what we get because, oh God, is it so painful to watch these days. At least we don't have impeachment talk. Like, that's its only saving grace.